Good morning. Brazil is officially a secular country, but let's be honest, it's one of the most religiously diverse places you'll ever visit. Catholicism is still the dominant religion, with around 50% of Brazilians identifying as Catholic, though that number has been shrinking. Meanwhile, evangelical Christianity has been growing rapidly and now making up about 30% of the population, with mega churches and televised pastors playing a huge role in daily life. But religion in Brazil isn't just about churches, it's about culture. Afro-Brazilian faiths like Candomblé and Umbanda blend Catholic saints with orixás, which are African deities, creating a spiritual mix that is uniquely Brazilian. Then you have Spiritism, based on the teachings of Allan Kardec, which is also widely followed. There's also a small but significant presence of Judaism, Islam, and indigenous spiritual traditions, plus a growing number of non-religious Brazilians. But one thing's for sure, whether in churches, in temples, or on the beach, spirituality is everywhere. Today I want to introduce you to a lady who is revered in Brazil, a senora who bridges between communities, a figurehead of a distinctively Brazilian approach to faith, culture, and community. Now, when I say Nossa Senhora, a specific senora might come to mind. And Nossa Senhora, as a title of reference in Portuguese, means Our Lady. Generally, it's referring to the Virgin Mary. But I want to tell you about Nossa Senhora Aparecida today, Brazil's patron saint since 1717. A lady whose feast day, 12th of October, is celebrated as a national holiday in Brazil every year, and a lady who connects Brazil's Afro-Brazilian communities with the country's Catholics of European descent. I met Nossa Senhora Aparecida yesterday in Búzios. I was fascinated by how her own story mirrors that of the country so perfectly. And when I say I met her yesterday, I ought to be a little bit more honest. I saw a statue of her in a shop. But I was peculiarly drawn to it. I ended up asking the lady who worked in the shop about the statue, and she was very informative. She told me that the statue costs 80 real. So I bought it, and I asked her to write down the name of what I'd bought. And here's the story. In 1717, three fishermen, Domingos Garcia, João Alves, and Felipe Pedroso, were out on the Paraíba River in São Paulo state, and they were tasked with catching fish for an important banquet being held for the visiting governor. But the river wasn't cooperating. Hour after hour, their nets came up empty with little to show for their efforts, and they began to lose hope. Desperate, they prayed to the Virgin Mary, asking for her help. And soon after, João Alves cast his net again, and what did his nets bring up? That's right, a small headless clay statue. Surprised by his catch, he cast the net again, and what did his nets bring up this time? The head. Well, it wasn't quite what they'd prayed for, but the fishermen carefully placed the statue, now reunited with its head, in their boat, and they tried again. And this time, their nets were suddenly full, overflowing with fish, far more than they'd expected. And it was a clear sign to them that something extraordinary had happened. And so they took the statue home to clean it up. And what they uncovered was a small, delicately crafted clay figure of the Virgin Mary, about 40 centimeters tall, with a serene expression, hands held together in prayer. The statue had clearly spent some time in the water. The surface was darkened, the features weathered, and the once bright colors had faded. But even in its worn state, there was something striking about it. She wore a long robe, and though her paint was chipped, traces of blue and gold detailing could still be seen. Over time, she would become known not just for her miraculous appearance, but for her unique look. Dark-skinned, humble, and deeply Brazilian. Local women began to sew elaborate capes and crowns for her, and a small shrine was built in the Pedroso family's home. People started visiting, praying, and reporting answered prayers and further miracles. Now, as more candles were lit at her shrine, the smoke continued to darken her clay. And as a result, many Brazilians, especially of African origin, felt a deep connection to her, seeing her as a symbol of protection, hope, and inclusion. What started as a quiet riverside discovery soon became the foundation of national devotion. Nossa Senhora Aparecida was officially declared the patroness of Brazil on the 16th of July 1930 by Pope Pius XI through a papal bull. And in the Catholic faith, her devotion became so widespread here that in 1955, Brazil built a dedicated church for her. And not just any old church. Today, the statue of Nossa Senhora Aparecida is housed in the Basilica de Nossa Senhora Aparecida, which is a church so enormous that it is the second largest in the world, right after St. Peter's in the Vatican. And if you ever visit, you'll understand why. It's more like a spiritual city than a church. It's got soaring ceilings, a huge central nave, and space for up to 45,000 people at once. Every year, millions of pilgrims make the journey to a town called Aparecida, named after her, and many days of walking or even weeks to get there. And the biggest moment is on the 12th of October, her feast day, which is also that national holiday in Brazil. The whole place fills with prayers, music, flags, candles, and crowds, all there to honor the woman they believe protects the country. And it's not just a religious celebration, it's a national moment of faith, of gratitude, and of devotion. But the symbolism of Nossa Senhora Aparecida doesn't just speak to Catholic Brazilians. And I'll tell you more about that after we open the portal and collect 2 more of our Brazilian ports of call. So let's start with Recife. Recife, you can see here a relatively well-equipped port. It does have Wi-Fi. They just need to find where the switch is to turn it on sometimes. There's tourist information, not really so much a tourist information desk, but there are people that hand out maps, toilets, taxis wait outside, and there is a bus to the port exit as well. Let me show you on a map where this is. So we're on this little island. It's an amazing place. The port area is relatively new, so the terminal is really quite modern, and it's really close to the other bits on the island. Now, some people will want to go further, in which case I would grab a taxi. But if you're just looking to stay in that local area and there's enough to enjoy there, then you take that shuttle bus, 5 minutes to the exit of the port, and from there you can walk on. Let's get into our top 10. Now, Recife is one of those cities that's really got a bit of everything. It's got history, it's got beaches, it's got music, a whole lot of energy. And sometimes they call it the Venice of Brazil because of its rivers and its bridges. But honestly, it feels more like its own thing. The city's got a mix of Portuguese and Dutch history. So yeah, Dutch. It's got a lively old town, carnival culture, never really slows down here. Whether you're exploring Marco Zero, which we'll get into, hitting the beaches, getting lost in the local food scene, this place keeps things interesting. It's fun, it's busy, there's always something happening, and there is the Dutch connection. So, let's start here. The Baron of Rio Branco Square, which is also known as Marco Zero Square. It's not just a plaza, this is where Recife officially begins. This is the historic heart of the city, marked by a striking compass. It's a rose mosaic in the floor. And it reminds visitors that all roads in Recife lead back here. So everything leads back to this heart of Recife. But the real magic, if you look out over the Capibaribe River, there are these bold, surreal sculptures of Francisco Brenand. They rise like guardians of the city's soul. By day, this place is like a sunlit stage for street performers. By night, it transforms into a hub of festivals, of music, of celebrations. But if you want to feel the pulse of Recife, this is where you need to stand and just let the city's energy engulf you. Now, I mentioned those statues, and you can hop on a boat from Marco Zero and glide across the Capibaribe River to this Parque de Esculturas Francisco Brenand. This is an open-air gallery, and it's otherworldly. A gathering of towering totems, strange figures, mystical creatures, all the work of Pernambuco's legendary sculpture. Now, the 32-meter-high column of crystal dominates the skyline, shimmering against the Atlantic breeze. And it was built for Recife's 500th anniversary. The park feels like a forgotten temple. It's half history, half fever dream. The ferry ride is short, the views are stunning, the art unforgettable, and this is Recife's soul baked into its clay. For a view, Malakoff Tower stands like a watchful sentinel over Recife Antigo, the old town. It's got this white stone facade, and it is a relic of the city's past. It was built in the 1850s as an astronomical observatory, a military watchtower as well. And it was named after a Crimean War fortress, because apparently 19th century Brazilians liked dramatic references. Today it's a cultural center, it hosts art exhibits, live performances. They've got this rooftop that offers panoramic views of the city and the port. And the best part is it's free to enter. You climb up, soak in the history, let your imagination drift, because from up here, Recife's past and present come together in an unforgettable vista. Now, Passo do Frevo is not just a museum. This is a living, breathing love letter to Frevo, with the lightning-fast, high-energy dance that defines Pernambuco's carnival spirit. Now, inside this restored colonial building, music spills in from every corner, exhibits on the history of Frevo, live performances, even dance workshops, if you're brave enough to try the moves for yourself. The colors, the energy, the heartbeat of Recife, it's all here. And if you weren't a Frevo fan before, maybe you don't even know what it is. You will be by the time you leave. Entry is pretty cheap, but the experience is priceless. And for a few moments, you are just part of the rhythm of Recife. Are we there on a Monday? Yes. Oh, well, you can see a nice building from the outside. And I highly recommend you go to Google and you search for Frevo and watch a video of the dancing, because it's of this area. And then come back and visit that museum. Now, also closed on a Monday, I've mentioned a lot of cathedrals on this cruise. So how about a synagogue? This one is pretty significant. Somewhat ironically located on Bom Jesus Street, the synagogue Kahal Zoy Israel is the first synagogue in the Americas. It dates back to the 1600s when Recife had a thriving Jewish community under Dutch rule. And inside, you'd find, if it was open, artifacts, old mikvahs, exhibits on Sephardic Jewish history in Brazil. It's a story of resilience. When the Portuguese reclaimed Recife, the Jewish population fled, many then to New York, which shaped the city's future. It doesn't look like it's going to be open, but you never know. If you... Oh... Do you know what? It's a great day on board. The spa is open. Oh my goodness me. I'll tell you about it anyway, because you can walk the outside. But this is more about Recife's Dutch connection, which I was so excited to tell you about. The Museo de Cidade do Recife, which is housed in a fort, the Forte das Cinco Pontas, the fort of 5 points. Or rather 4 points now, because the Portuguese inconveniently knocked one off. But this was built by the Dutch in 1630 as Fort Frederick Hendrik. And this fortress once guarded their ambitious colony, New Holland, which was a name they recycled a few times. Pretty much every time the previous New Holland was taken over by somebody else. Now, it is, on every day apart from Monday, a free entry museum, packed with maps, artifacts, stories of Recife's colonial past. But you can wander the outside of the site. You still get a sense of the fortress. And since we are arriving on a Dutch ship, there's sort of a full circle moment in history here, minus the cannons. Oh, does someone want to tell the captain we should wait a day? Here's another fort. Again, it's beautiful from the outside. Nobody goes in these things. Forte de São João Batista do Brum. It's one of Recife's oldest forts. It's built in the late 1500s. It was built to defend against pirates, but then it was reinforced by the Portuguese to fight off the Dutch. It's got thick stone walls that you can't penetrate on a Monday. Cannons still in place, and great views over the Capibaribe River. Inside there's a small museum, but it's really not worth seeing. Only a couple of military artifacts, a little bit of colonial history. You don't need to see that. It would be free to enter because it's not worth seeing, so they can't charge for it. It's not the biggest attraction in town, but it's a fun spot to walk around. The outside, really nice photo. If you like photos against sort of whitewashed walls, then this is worth a visit. I am praying when I click next. Unbelievable. Do you know, with Fortaleza, I checked what was open on a Wednesday. For some reason, I didn't do the same here. Let me tell you about this place that you can't visit. The Centro Cultural Case do Sertão is one of Recife's more interesting museums. It's got a really nice window, though. This is all about the Sertão, which is the vast sun-scorched hinterland of northeast Brazil and the culture that grew out from that. Inside it's pretty high-tech, but you don't really need to know that on this occasion. It covers folk traditions. There's also an area, and you might want to look this guy up, Luiz Gonzaga. Luiz Gonzaga is the king of Baião music, and that's typical of this region, folk music of this region. Inside there is a replica of a traditional home, there are musical displays, but on this occasion you might just want to enjoy looking at their website using the free Wi-Fi from the port, which I believe they do switch on a Monday. Let's move ahead to number 9. Okay, yes! Oh, we made it. So when we asked the local, now it makes sense. We asked the local agent to recommend somewhere to go in Recife, and he didn't pick anywhere in Recife. Makes sense now. He said, go to Alto da Sé in Olinda. And honestly, he was right. This hilltop square is pure magic. It's got cobblestone streets, colonial churches, and the best views of Recife's skyline. It's also a great place to grab an acarajé from a street vendor, to watch local artists paint the scene that's in front of them. And to get there, you just jump in a short taxi ride from the port, and it is totally worth it, because Olinda really knows how to impress, and it's open. And if you are thinking of going out to Olinda, then make sure to go to the Casa dos Bonecos Gigantes, because nothing says welcome to Brazil like a room full of giant carnival puppets staring at you. This is the best museum in the whole region. I won't hear a word against it. These massive, larger-than-life figures are a key part of Olinda's famous carnival. They tower over the crowds as they parade through the streets. Go to YouTube and watch a video of this carnival. It's amazing. At the museum, you can get up close to those puppets. You can learn how they're made. You can even try one on if you're feeling adventurous. It's quirky, it's fun, it's open. And it is pure Olinda, a place that takes its carnival spirit seriously all year round. I'm going to put the highlights on a map. I wish I could turn some of them red. But let's just recap the ones that are worth heading out to tomorrow. The first one, number 1, that's the main square. Definitely worth going there. Fabulous photos and a great atmosphere. Number 2, definitely open as well. You get a boat across. Don't pay too much for the boat. They do try and sting you with some tourist prices. If they're asking for anything more than 5, then they're being a little cheeky. That's not open on Monday either? It's an open-air island. You could swim it. Unbelievable. We've got a boat. Let's just go there ourselves. Yes. You can see the statues from land as well. Dearie me. Malakoff Tower, I think that one was open, but then it all went wrong from there. Closed, 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 open, and open. Okay, so I would recommend going to the shopping mall, which is closed on Monday. No, the shopping mall is open. And also, I'm going off script here, but just to give you something more, because I feel I've given you very little so far. If you, I couldn't give you less than what I've already given you. Come down from the ship, head to this square, then ignore all of these highlights because they are closed, and go out over one of the bridges and take it as a circular walk. This is why they call it the Venice of Brazil. If you go out over this bridge, this area here, there's a church dedicated to Princess Isabella. You could then go actually further. This is now turning into a good couple of hours walk if you were to do this, but you can turn it into a circle, come back over this bridge. You get a nice green park looking over the waterfront with another church, come back along this path, then you can go up on the outside and then round the top. If you love a good walk, you'll see plenty of historic churches on that loop and a couple of fortresses as well. I can't vouch for any of them being open. Let's move on to a port where I did check the day that we were in. So this is Fortaleza. As you can see, another very modern terminal building. They really are driving a lot of tourists here. It's not a city that a lot of people have heard of outside of Brazil, but it is the 5th largest city in Brazil. So it's a pretty major place. And with that, as you'd expect, they've got fabulous toilets. They've got Wi-Fi, taxis wait outside of the port area, tourist information available as well, Pretty light touch, but tourist information nonetheless. And then there is a shuttle bus. Let me show you on a map why there's a shuttle bus. So, this shuttle bus is optional, but it's a good idea. So we're docked right up in the corner, because that's where the port is. Then, the main city, one person got it, but the main city is a decent journey across. Now, we say 30 minutes. It's sometimes a bit quicker than that. That's dependent on traffic. But 30 minutes is already factoring a little bit of traffic. There's not really very much to walk to from the port, because these distances are actually quite large. To get to here, which I'll talk about in a moment, or here, which are the two nearest areas to the port with stuff to see, that's about 4 kilometers still. So you're still looking at a 30 to 40 minute walk. But there are taxis there too, if you prefer to take a taxi. Fortaleza is a place that surprises people, but it's in a good way. It's big, it's lively, it's a city right on the beach. It's got a mix of modern high-rises, colonial leftovers, a whole lot of energy. It's sort of Miami feeling. You've got markets, music, sand, seafood, all crammed into one spot. Some of the best beaches of Brazil are just a short drive away. It's laid back. Lots of people wear flip-flops. Oh. But whether you are wanting to shop, swim, soak up the northeast sun, this is a place that is going to leave you with great memories right the way through. Here we go. Let's go through our top 10. 8. Because the others were closed. So, this is where the shuttle bus drops us off. So let's start there. This is also the reason I'm going to have no space in my luggage. The Mercado Central de Fortaleza is a multi-level maze of leather, lace, hammocks, cashew nuts. It's colorful chaos. You pick up souvenirs, think handmade sandals, embroidered tablecloths, bottles of local cachaça, and there are hundreds of stalls. It's overwhelming, but in the best way. Prices are reasonable. Haggling is part of the fun. Just leave room in your bag, or better yet, bring an empty one, because you've been warned. By the way, that's reminded me, and it's in one of these two ports, and my brain is going foggy on which one, but one of these two ports has the most incredible shopping mall, and I feel it's Recife, because I'm just sensing it's something that's open on a Monday. But the shopping mall is built into the old prison. Is that Recife? Yes, I should have put that as a highlight instead of those closed museums. That is brilliant, because the shops, now just to avoid confusion, I've gone back to Recife for a moment. The shops are in the old cells. How cool is that? So that's now a top 10. And I won't hear anything against it. There was a free shuttle there previously. It's called the Recife Jail Mall in English. Don't know what the Portuguese for it is. Okay, but if you just do like jail, lock up, and then do, they'll hopefully get it. Okay, let's get back to Fortaleza. A little bit wild today. Right by the market is the cathedral, the Catedral Metropolitana de Fortaleza. And even if you're not usually a church person, it's worth a look. This thing is huge. It fits 5,000 people, and it looks like it was dropped in from somewhere in Europe. It's got pointed towers, stained glass windows that catch the light just right. It took 40 years to build, which honestly feels about right when you see the detail in it. And it's cool inside. A welcome break from the heat. And if you're there when the bells ring, it's pretty impressive. It's a quick visit, it's an easy photo stop, and it is right next to the shopping. Okay, Centro Dragão do Mar de Arte e Cultura is where Fortaleza gets creative. This is a huge cultural complex. It's packed with art galleries, a planetarium, theatres, cinema, street performers doing their thing. And the name means sea dragon, which already makes it sound cool. And the place lives up to it. By day, you can check out the exhibitions. By the evening, it turns into bars, restaurants. Everything comes alive here. It's got this laid-back but lively vibe about it. It's perfect for soaking up the city's artistic side. And if you want a break from beaches and markets, then this is the spot to go. If you want the beach, though. Praia do Poço de Draga is not your typical tourist beach. This beach has character, it's got history, it's got a real local vibe. And it's tucked near the Dragão do Mar Cultural Centre. This stretch of sand is where fishermen bring in their catch. This is where local kids play in the wave. This is where life moves at its own pace. It is not a fancy resort-style beach that you will find elsewhere in Fortaleza, but that's what makes this one interesting. There's a strong community feel, colourful fishing boats, some great little seafood stalls nearby. So if you want a beach that feels authentic, not polished, grab a cold drink and watch the world go by here. But if you do want to visit that classic tourist-focused resort beach, then Praia do Futuro is the place. Golden sand, rolling waves, massive beach bars that feel more like mini resorts in their own right. And this is where Fortaleza does beach life in style. You'll find great seafood, cold drinks, plenty of space to stretch out, plus there are lifeguards and decent swimming conditions. And this is about 15 minutes from the port. So if you're heading straight there, it's better to take a taxi rather than the shuttle bus to the city centre. It's less hassle, more beach time, so that's the way to do it. But let's get back to the city centre, open on a Wednesday, because tucked inside the Dragão do Mar complex is the Museu da Cultura Cearense. And if you want to get a feel for the Ceará people beyond the beaches, this is the place. It's got interactive exhibits, folk art, a deep dive into the traditions of the sertão, which is, as I mentioned before, Brazil's semi-arid backlands. And the highlight, a whole section is dedicated to the vaqueiros, which is Brazil's cowboy culture. If you think leather outfits, lasso skills, and a really tough way of life. It's well done, it's not too big, and it's free to enter. So it's a great place to add a little history to your day, especially if you are feeling starved of it after Recife. Teatro José de Alencar is one of those places that makes you stop and say, wait, this is Fortaleza? Now, it's named after one of Brazil's most famous writers, and it was built in 1910. It is a gorgeous blend of cast iron, stained glass, and intricate woodwork. And it looks more like something you'd find in Europe than in northeast Brazil. And you don't need tickets to a show to enjoy it either. They offer guided tours during the day. So you can wander backstage, you can peek into the dressing rooms, learn a bit about the building's quirky history. And it is right there in the city centre, so it's easy to visit and it's well worth the short detour. And the tours are on the hour, every hour except 12 p.m, but they don't advertise at which hour they start. So I'm going to guess 10 o'clock is a safe guess. And number 8, Fortaleza de Nossa Senhora de Assunção is where Fortaleza literally gets its name. This was built by the Dutch in 1649, taken over by the Portuguese soon after, and reinforced over the years. And this historic fort is still being used by the Brazilian military today. So you can't wander in freely, but guided tours are available, taking you through the old cannons, the colonial walls, the cell where Brazil's first emperor was once imprisoned. It's not the biggest attraction in town, but if you like history, it is a quick and interesting stop. Plus, if you're standing inside the fort, you're in the exact spot where the city began. Oh, and in case you're wondering who this Nossa Senhora is, Nossa Senhora de Assunção is the Virgin Mary. All right, here is a map of the highlights. And here I've just focused in on the Centro area. So where the shuttle bus drops us off is where the number 1 is. Because the only things off the map from here are the beaches. If you're looking for a touristy type beach, but you don't want to go all the way back to Praia do Futuro, then to the right of Praia do Porto de Draga is a more touristy beach as well. And so you could walk along from there. It's not the shortest of walk, it's sort of walking back towards the port. But if you want a 30-40 minute walk along the beach, then that's a nice way to go back. All right, let's get back to Nossa Senhora Aparecida. But now, I want to take this Catholic saint, derived, remember, from a fateful fishing trip back in 1717, where 3 fishermen fished up a headless statue of the Mother Mary before their bad fortune on the river took an about turn and their nets filled with delicious fish. Well, Brazil's African communities take as much pride in this matron figure as Brazilian Catholics do. But not all Brazilians are Catholic. Many Afro-Brazilians continue to connect with their ancestry, which came over during the transatlantic slave trade. And the most well-known are Candomblé and Umbanda, spiritual traditions that blend West African beliefs with elements of Catholicism, also elements of indigenous practices. Candomblé has deep roots in Yoruba, Bantu, and Fon cultures, while Umbanda developed later, combining African orixás with Catholic saints, spiritism, and folk healing. And there's a word for this: syncretism. It's the blending of different religious traditions into something new and uniquely local. In Brazil, that means Catholic saints paired with African orixás, rituals shared across faiths, and a spiritual landscape where praying to Mary and honoring Iemanjá can happen side by side. So who is Iemanjá? She's the Afro-Brazilian goddess of the sea, a powerful orixá who represents motherhood, protection, fertility, and the ocean itself. In Candomblé and Umbanda, she's often seen as the great mother of all orixás, and she's deeply loved, especially in coastal communities. And people leave her offerings of flowers, perfume, and jewelry, sending them out to sea in little boats, especially on the 2nd of February, which is her biggest celebration. Now, she's usually portrayed in flowing blue and white, with long hair and a calm, regal presence. And for many Brazilians, she's more than a goddess. She's a protector, a comforter, a constant presence. And for many Brazilians, Nossa Senhora Aparecida is Iemanjá. The name Iemanjá comes from the Yoruba phrase, Yeye Omo Eja, which roughly means mother whose children are fish. So it's easy to see how Afro-Brazilians have been able to connect so deeply with the fishing miracle origins of Nossa Senhora Aparecida. The syncretism of Nossa Senhora and Iemanjá isn't just a fascinating religious detail. It's actually a pretty great metaphor for Brazil itself. On one side, you've got Catholicism brought by Portuguese colonizers. On another, you've got African spirituality brought through the brutal legacy of slavery. And somehow, over time, these two worlds didn't just collide, they merged, creating something uniquely Brazilian. In a country where faith is everywhere, it's not unusual for someone to light a candle to Nossa Senhora and then leave flowers in the ocean for Iemanjá. And they see no contradiction in that at all. It's blended identity in action, and it reflects the broader mix that defines Brazil. Indigenous roots, African heritage, European influence, all coexisting, sometimes uneasily, but always creatively. And it's this same cultural mix that gives us samba, copiera, fogueada, carnival, even the way people speak and celebrate. understanding this spiritual overlap helps you see Brazil not as one neat thing, but as a layered, complicated, beautiful mosaic. If you want a lens to understand the country, its resilience, its contradictions, its joy, Nossa Senhora and Iemanjá standing not just side by side, but embodied in the same statue, is a pretty good place to start. Thank you.